August 16, 2020. While I was doing the daily things, the Lord spoke to me again and told me, "So, plant roots in different parts my people can do in this way." We know that among the roots we have the potato, the cassava, the sweet potato, the yam, and many others. See what is given in your area, and please obey the ordinance of the Almighty. He also told me, "Get sorghum." This cereal does not need much maintenance and is abundant. He put in my mind the Jerusalem artichoke, Helianthus tuberosus. It is a flower with a root, a bulb, edible. It gives in abundance and does not need much maintenance either. He called my attention to the fact that we should have enough coal. This is the one to drink, clay for any health situation, the salt which he has also made, and we have seen how he has been able to save so many lives in the face of this current pandemic, which was at its peak during the cool season at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year. Many people then were affected, and although we know that not everything that was attributed to the coronavirus was coronavirus, it was other types of situations. But despite that, we have been able to help many people, and the Lord called my attention to the fact that we should have plenty of salt. Let's remember that it is the salt that is given to the animals. It is a whole salt, so that, like this, we can enjoy this wonderful mineral. He also told me about medicinal plants that we should have dried in our house, but also planted. I want to tell you a testimony. Later, I will tell you about this, about the plants when one sows, and how, when we pray at the moment we're planting them, day after day, we pass by the planting places and we kneel down and pray, how the Lord puts his powerful hand taking care of all these young seedlings for the benefit of his children. Another of the things that the Lord called my attention was the sulfides. We know that the garlic, the onion, the chives, or in the case where we are, that these three are not, or some of the others. We can use the enamu plant, Petiveria oleacea, which is also high in sulfides. The Lord continued talking to me. He told me, "You have had some experiences in the field. You have seen some things. Speak to my people, instruct them. Because of the things that you have learned, they can find an equivalent of what is given in their place, and they can do it. For example, here in Puerto Rico, there is something called a chicharo. It is a legume. It is a vine. This vine, you plant one, and after 2-3 months, it begins to give its peas, its little beans. And if you don't pick it, if you don't harvest those beans, if you leave them there for them to fall to the ground, it becomes a bush for you, and you don't have to do anything. It is very invasive. But yes, because it is a vine, you have to place it in a place where it can develop without climbing onto other plants, which will then goes into conflict with other fruit that is already giving. So it is very important that you see what is easily given of the leguminous in your place. That is very important, beloved brothers. Another of the things to which the Lord called my attention is that we have medicinal plants, and that we not only learn how to make them grow, take care of them. The one who makes them grow is He, but we take care of them during that growth. But that we spend time learning how to use them. Still, in some places, there is access to the internet. We have also compiled some benefits of plants. We have passed them through Telegram. Go there. Go to do the search. We know that soon we are not going to have electronic means by the way that this is going. It's what the Lord has let us know. So I advise you, please, every important PDF, every important information that has been passed or comes to you, please get it out. Try to get it out on paper. Try to print it so that you can have it. Because it is very important. If I have a plant and I have a situation, but I don't know how to use it, it will be useless for me. And the Lord wants His people to dedicate themselves and learn these things. It is very important that we cleanse our body of grit and stones. This was another of the things that the Lord called my attention. We have passed a very simple but very effective recipe for the cleaning of the gallbladder, but also, although it is said so, it cleans what are grit and stones in the system. Also, another of the things that the Lord called my attention, because we have seen persons who are almost at the point of death because they have a constipated, dirty colon, and this makes the blood dirty. This makes the persons, when the colon is already at its maximum capacity of this fecal feces inside them, then it does not allow the person to eat. He suffers from strong stomach and intestinal pains. He begins to vomit. His hands and legs begin to cramp. Some severe headaches. They start to get dizzy. All these are symptoms that the body is intoxicated. Why is it intoxicated in that way? Because we have not given this body the fuel that the body needs, to which it was really made. So the Lord called my attention to plants that can help cleanse our colon, to make it stay clean, so that we can have a new opportunity to give this body what it really needs, so that we can have a good functioning of our organism. Also, the Lord called my attention to drink plant tea. He told me about the citrus leaves, neem leaves, soursop leaves, cranberry leaves, blueberry, botanical name, Vaccinium oxycoccus, various leaves. I was walking through the garden that day, and I saw the leaves, and the Lord told me, of this one you can drink tea, of this one too. And that is why I am sharing this with you, because I do not want this information to remain only for here, for those of us who are here, but for everyone, because that's how I was let known, that it should be for everyone. And whenever the Lord gives us something, we want to share it. The Lord wants His people to be healthy people, to be a people that knows the art and science of curing their system, of taking care of it, of giving it maintenance through His nature. Another of the things that the Lord called my attention was about keeping the level of glucose in our blood through the leaves of soursop, Graviola, Annona muricata, the leaves of condimer, Momordica tarantia, the leaf of the breadfruit, Artocarpus altilis, being this last one the most effective. We can take the breadfruit leaf and shred it, take a liter of water, boil it, add this leaf when it boils, then cover and let it rest. And we can take it daily if the person is diabetic. If not, you can take it 2 to 3 times a week to keep any excess sugar out of your blood. If the person already uses insulin, either in pills or injectables, must make the decision to make the change, but then they cannot use the breadfruit leaf and the insulin at the same time, because then the sugar can drop a lot and it is a grave danger. But the person who suffers from problems of high sugar, diabetes, they have a little machine that they can monitor, and according to this, they can know if they apply the tea or not. It all depends. If they see it high, well, they can apply the tea. If they have it normal or low, then do not apply this remedy. For blood pressure, the Lord called my attention to something that we have used a lot, and it has been a great blessing. It has been cayenne pepper. We have been here with the help of the Lord. It has been very difficult after the hurricane to plant some things. We know and we understand that the hurricane called Maria in 2017, which hit the island of Puerto Rico and also other islands in the Caribbean, not only brought inside the system water, but also brought many other things that were implemented to make the earth more arid, the plants more susceptible to disease, and many of them did not want it to grow after this. But the Lord has been teaching us how to heal the earth. We have previously shared it with you, and one of the things that the Lord has given us is the opportunity to plant the cayenne pepper. This pepper, when it is powdered or when it is fresh, we crush it well, but a portion, when it is fresh, very small, as well as powder, but fresh, it is much stronger. We mix it with a little water. For example, just with my fingernail, I tear off a very small piece of what is the fresh pepper, and I put it in a mortar. I crush it well, and I add 8 ounces of water. I take it, and this helped me lower my blood pressure, and also the celery, Appium graveolens juice has been very helpful for us. It has done a lot of good for the persons. So the Lord has taught us this. Today, at this time, He was calling my attention to this so that the people prepare for what is coming. Also, to eliminate triglycerides and cholesterol. This rise of triglycerides and cholesterol in our system, the Lord called my attention to a remedy that we have used for years. 2 slices of fresh pineapple, 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed, 2 tablespoons of bran or oat or wheat straw, which is the fiber, 2 tablespoons of oats, a cup of water, 7 cooked garbanzo beans. You can germinate them and then you can cook them a little bit, only medium softened, or if they have enough days of germination and they're quite soft, you can add them like this without cooking into the batter. This, everything will be blended. Another thing that the Lord called my attention when He spoke about the fact that we had to prepare ourselves with manual things, hence for agriculture and for sewing as well as for cooking, was to get a manual blender. You can get it. Its name is Boltex blender. You do your search and this manual blender will appear there. Let us remember that we are going to be now soon walking at the time of not being able to buy and sell, being deprived of all earthly support. So we must have things that we can do. If we don't have light, electricity, well, we can do it, right? So we are going to blend all this 2 or 3 times a day. We are going to take it for 21 days for those people who only want to maintain themselves. But if there are people who have known they've had this condition for a while, it's going to take a little longer for their levels to get up to what they normally should be. This is cleaning veins and arteries in the system, and we have to get into this as the Lord has called our attention to this. We all need to start cleaning our system. Try as much as possible. I know there are some places, and that's why I say try, because, for example, I have received messages from people who, in their place where they are, the only thing they have to eat is pure white rice. And we're not going to tell them not to do it. They can combine it with other things, with vegetables, with leaves, so that the fiber that it does not contain is complemented. But we can't take it away if it's all they have. And the Lord knows what the situation is in each place. But as much as possible, eliminate refined foods, saturated fats, sweets. As a people, we already know that we should not be consuming any type of animal, including fish, which is also animal meat. It is marine animal meat. None of this should be in us, in our system, neither the egg, nor the cheese, nor the caffeinated tea, nor the coffee, nor the chocolate, all these things. The Lord is calling that His people not only to prepare themselves in the spiritual aspects, but also in the physical aspects. And we cannot achieve a spirituality as the Lord requires of His people at this time if we are not giving this body really the fuel it needs with food that are not food. Well, you can't even call them food, with junk that the world has put and we have become accustomed to eat. And even many times when we were in the church system, many people officiated knowing that they drank coffee, that they drank Coke, that they drank Pepsi Cola, that they were chocolate eaters. In fact, in this pagan festival of Valentine's Day, well, they brought chocolates to the children in the departmental. It was a war that was waged with great disgust while fighting inside the system. But thank God, the Lord has set us apart so that we can have peace, we can have tranquility, and we can be far from all these things because the Lord is educating a people. The Lord has taken control of the education of His true people in these days, beloved brothers, and we cannot afford to ignore the King of Kings and Lord of Lords because He, better than anyone, knows what each one of us is going to have to face, and that is why He is calling us to this. Everything that contains caffeine, everything that contains whey, which is the protein of animal milk, dairy products, all of this fills our lungs with phlegm, thus creating respiratory crises such as asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, sinusitis, allergies, etc., etc., beloved brothers. And we see that the people who have been suffering from this coronavirus and from other diseases that have risen, as I said before, not everything is coronavirus under this pandemic situation that they have created in the world. But there are people who have perished, but it's because they had this bad diet and their system was already clogged with all this. So it has been very difficult for them then to be able to survive in this situation of this problem or these problems that come with the winter weather. Because really, where winter problems attack is the respiratory tract. So we must have our airways clean because we know and understand, beloved brothers, that this has only been a test of what is to come. So another of the things to which the Lord called my attention to share with you, beloved, is to be careful with the bread bought. Use your own bread made at home. There is a recipe that the Lord gave to my husband when I was with cancer, according to which I had been diagnosed that I could not eat any wheat because I was allergic to it. But when the Lord gave this recipe to my husband, which was the primary one, the first, He went leading us little by little until now, making it completely whole wheat, 100% whole wheat flour. Since when we make it of 100% whole wheat flour, it has to be a flour that is not received here on the island, but some brothers in the U.S., the Lord has touched them so that they send us flour that they have obtained there, which, yes, they are 100% integral. So I started eating this bread, and I never had any reaction to what the wheat was. So the Lord slowly led us to realize that it's all the extra stuff, the preservatives, and all these things that they put into the wheat that make this bread give us allergies. We also know that there is wheat that is adulterated. And well, the Lord is taking us little by little because He knows what we need and how to take each one of us. I'm going to give you the first recipe that the Lord let me know that I should share so that you can begin. It is the will of the Lord that homemade bread be made in every house of his children. 1 cup whole wheat flour, 1 cup of wheat without shell and without bleach, 1 cup whole seeds, or you can, if you wish, grind them freshly. 2 tablespoons of cold-pressed olive oil. You could either use cold-pressed grapeseed oil or cold-pressed avocado oil, or you can use flaxseed, the slime, mucilage of flaxseed. You can put 2 tablespoons of seed in a cup of water to soak from the night before, 1 teaspoon yeast, 1 teaspoon salt. So you will add to the bread along with 1.5 to 2 cups of water. You are going to mix to make there a level, a consistency, so that the dough is not very soaked, but rather that you can work it and knead it well. We don't have an exact measure of how much liquid is needed for the bread because I'm going to explain that not all the flours that are available in all places have the same absorption method. There are some that absorb more liquid than others. So we have to play with this until the point is reached, and you are going to write it down. Then you know that with the flour that you got, that is the amount of water that is needed. Everyone has to give themselves the task of doing this because I can't do it. The flour that we get here requires much more water than the complete flours that are available in some places. So that one, the one that is complete, needs less liquid. There are other variations that can be made with this recipe that I just shared with you. You can change the cup of whole wheat for a cup of corn flour, or you can also change it for a cup of oat flour or rye flour or millet flour or quinoa flour, the flour that you get at that time. The 1/4 cup of seed that I told you about in the recipe, you can change it for herbs or other things like dried fruits. But if you add dried fruits, add 4 tablespoons of pure honey or stevia or agave to the water that you are going to use, or maple. I mention all of this because in different areas, well, you get different sweeteners. If you prefer, it is not necessary, but if you wish, you can use one of these sweeteners. It is very important that you knead this bread, and when it is well kneaded, that there is nothing left around the bowl or the vessel or the table where you are kneading this, that it no longer sticks to your hands either. Then you put it to rest for half an hour to 45 minutes in a place that is somewhat warm, lukewarm. Now after this, you are going to take out that dough. You are going to knead it again a lot. And now then you are going to put the grease that you are going to put on the baking pan where you are going to put it. Always try to use coconut oil or avocado oil or grapeseed oil, which are the most resistant to heat before they oxidize. So what you're going to put there with a piece of paper or something is nothing more to give it a little bit like that to the baking pan. You are going to put there the bread that you kneaded now for the second time, and you are going to let it rise for 45 minutes or an hour more. Now then you're going to put this bread in the oven at 350 degrees for half an hour, and then you're going to lower it to 200 degrees for another half hour. And so you will have a good bread that will be cooked both inside and out. It is very important to let you know that when the bread is freshly baked, it is not the time to eat it. If you can slice it up and put it back in the oven and toast it a little bit more and leave it 2 to 3 days before eating it, it's ideal for the system. This is how it should be, so that every trace of yeast that is in it can come out, can die, and you are not exposed to this. Many people have asked me, what about the yeast? This is something that is alive. It has to be refrigerated. And if we don't have what are we going to do? Well then, there we work with what is the mother yeast. If you have a small pack of yeast and you know that it's the last one that you have, that you won't be able to get any more, you make your bread, and from that dough that you made, well, you're going to keep a little bit of this yeast. You can get a clay container, bury it in the ground in a place that is very cool, in the place where you are. So you are going to fill it halfway with water, and you're going to put that yeast inside a tightly closed plastic bag so that the water does not enter, and you are going to leave it there. You are going to cover it, and so that piece of leavened dough, you will have it available day after day to make your bread. Mix all the ingredients, and then when you are going to add the water to make the dough, then you incorporate this piece of leavened dough that you saved well. Then the rest of the dough will leaven. Not only do we have to make leavened bread, there are unleavened breads. We see it in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We can take the same ingredients that I told you without the yeast, and we can make a delicious bread. It's not going to rise. It's a flat bread. It's like tortillas. But we can also do it in the same way. The only thing that when we put them in the oven, if you want to bake them well, then we're going to put them at 250 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then we are going to lower it to 150 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes more. And we already have our unleavened bread. Or also we can do it on top of the stove. It is another way of doing it. I know that the Lord is going to give wisdom to each one of his children on the wide face of the earth, because he promised that at the end of time, he was going to give very simple but very beneficial and tasty recipes to different places so that we would be ready for these situations that are coming. Another of the things that the Lord called my attention is that we have whole grains like cereals and legumes, whole oils like I just told you about a while ago of avocado, flaxseed, grape, olive, coconut, whatever you can find, the whole salt, which I told you before, the honey or coconut sugar. There are in some places. Here in Puerto Rico, it is very expensive, but there are other places that have reported to me that this is the sugar they have there, that it is very cheap. So that all these things, beloved brothers, let us have provision. Let us have provision. Why? Because we are already seeing. They no longer have to tell us, look, because this is going to happen. We are already seeing what is happening in the world. I know that right now, every place on the planet has been impacted by something, by some situation, and the most we see is famine. Famine is coming, and it's coming fast, beloved brothers, so we have to take this into account. It's been almost 2 years now, a little more, that we here as a family do not consume any type of sugar, only fruit. So you can also have a little in reserve of dried fruits. You can make a homemade dehydrator so that you can dry fruits. Or if you still can go online and buy one where you are, or if you know where they are sold, take hold of one. This is very important at this time. There are dried fruits, as I told you before, like cranberries, blueberries, raisins, peaches, all these things. Always, when you consume dried fruits, especially those that are already like that, dried, you know that they add a lot of sugar for preservation. In some cases, not all. So you can put them to soak from one day to the next to remove excess sugar and hydrate them, and those you can consume them. It is much better for your system. In seeds, try to have flaxseed, sesame, pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, poppy seed, and other seeds that I know that may be in your place that are edible, and that I know that the Lord will enlighten you so that you can have it. The Lord also called my attention to deworming the system. The papaya seed is tremendous for this. There is a dressing that is prepared very tasty and at the same time, then it is useful, in the correct use of it, to deworm both adults and children. The dressing is prepared as follows: half a cup of papaya seed, a cup of olive oil, 2 garlic cloves, an eighth of an onion. If it is lilac, much better, but you add whatever you have at that moment. And a little salt, a little of whole salt. So you mix all of this together and make a nice dressing to put on top of salads, on top of whatever you're going to eat. But when we are going to use it as dewormer, well then we are going to take it at night. 2 tablespoons of this at night, as I told you before. But you are going to add a few drops to this, spoonfuls. You are going to add a few drops of honey because the parasites loves sugar. So looking for honey, it will come to what you are ingesting and it will consume it and is going to die. You must take it for 21 nights, both adults and children, so that it can be very effective in the system. We must do this every 3 or every 6 months. That's why it's important to have papaya trees. Here in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico, the Lord commanded us to plant many papaya trees or bushes, and we are working on that by God's direction. Another of the plants that also serves to deworm is mugwort tea or Artemisia vulgaris. In some places, they do not have mugwort or Artemisia, but wormwood. They can use it too. You are going to take 2 twigs of this mugwort or wormwood, and you are going to put a cup of water to boil, and you're going to do it as an infusion. We know when it boils, turn off the fire. You cover, you put the twigs there, and you will add, when you strain it and put it in your cup, 2 or 3 drops of honey. And this also, we can also take this at night for 21 days, both adults and children. One of the things that the Lord also called my attention to is to make our own soap for bathing, for washing clothes, for hair shampoo. I really like the Quaba soap from the Dominican Republic, made from the resin of Pinus occidentalis, because it runs all these bases, both in humans and animals, and it is also medicinal for the skin. I know that in all places the Lord has put something similar, or the Lord is going to give the wisdom so that you can do it. Soon we will be passing out a recipe for the group so that you can start making your own soap. In toothpaste, we can use charcoal alone. We can also mix a little bit of baking soda, bicarbonate, with a little bit of coconut oil and hydrogen peroxide. You're going to mix this until it's a paste, and you can brush with this. Also, for mouthwash, you can use mint tea, mugwort tea, pennyroyal tea, citrus leaf tea. You can also use it, and this will help you a lot to keep your teeth up to date. Very important at this time. Here in Puerto Rico and in other places as well, I've been reported within the American territory. If you want to go to the dentist and you do not go through the protocol of this coronavirus situation with checkups and tests and all those things, well, you cannot have access to a dentist. So we know that all these things are going to keep tightening, and we have to take care of ourselves. Also, the Lord called my attention to what Candida is. It is a fungus. There are many people, if not the majority of people, this fungus is in the system. Those who have bowel problems have more in their large intestine. But this is something that normally exists within the system in the intestine. It is part of what is called the process of breaking down feces. I'm not going to touch on that much because, well, I think we've talked about this before. But when we eat canned things, refined sugars, junk food, well, this keeps growing and growing. It gets out of control. It leaves the intestine, invades our system, especially the brain, and we then begin to suffer from many things, especially dementia. And we have to be careful with this. That is why the Lord has commanded us to eat bitter herbs, to consume plenty of citrus fruit. And if you don't have citrus as such, the fruit on the tree, use citrus leaf tea and avoid consuming everything that is junk food, coloring agents, emulsifiers. There are some acronyms that we must take care of them, which is the BHT and BTA, thickeners, preservatives, additives. All these things have to come out of our diet. The more we go to eat from the earth, the better for all of us. Much more this system will be fit for all the things that are coming our way. Always make sure that you do good of the bowel. Go to the bathroom in good quantity every day. If you eat twice, you must go twice. If you eat 3 times, you must go 3 times. This is the normal. Drink also water in the necessary quantity, enough. And if you live somewhere warm, well, you are going to drink a little more. You can weigh yourself. That weight of yours, you are going to divide it in 2. And that result that gives you is the amount of liquid that you should consume in the day. Of course, if you drink tea during the day, this also you will add to that liquid. If you are a person who exercises, you are working in the field, you are sweating more. You are in construction, you are sweating more. Well, then you know that you should drink more liquid. Drinking liquid when you feel thirsty is not the point to drink, because the body has already gone into dehydration. So it is important that we drink liquid consciously, not when the body is already asking for it. This is very important. Another of the things that the Lord called my attention is that we prepare filters to filter the water. We've passed this also through the groups before, that we can prepare filters with cotton, stone, sand, and coal, so that we have very good drinking water for us to consume. We know that everything by the enemy, instigated by the enemy of souls, is going to be disrupted, and God is preparing a people so that they do not suffer in the midst of this adversity. And we know that He has the power to clean all food, which of course is approved by Him. We know that in many places, well, there are people who report to us and tell us, Sister, but Leviticus talks about there that some meats can be eaten, some cannot. Beloved brothers, the Lord is taking His people back to the original plan. Their meats did not exist. So, beloved brothers, limit yourselves. In the name of the Lord, I ask you, if you do not want to suffer destruction in your physical and spiritual life, do not touch anything that comes from an animal at this time, beloved brothers. Obey the Lord, and the Lord will provide for you so that you can continue sustaining yourself. So it is very important, beloved brothers, that we understand this. The Lord has the power to clean the waters wherever He wants us to be so that we can drink. But beloved brothers, let us remember that what we can do, the Lord is not going to do for us. If the Lord is calling our attention for us to make filters or have filters so that we can have good water to drink, to cook, beloved brothers, let's do it. Let's be obedient, because He knows why He says it, because He sees the end from the beginning. That is why I am sharing this with you, beloved brothers, because the Lord let me know all these things. Ask yourself a question, as the Lord said to me. Can I do without going to the city if I don't have to? Can I do without going to the city if I don't have to? Do I have what I need in the place where I am in such a way that I do not have to go to the city for anything? Let us ask ourselves this question. And if we can answer it satisfactorily, glory be to the Lord. Very tremendous times are coming in the coming months in front of us, beloved brothers. And it's going to be very dangerous to be going to the cities. Now that we can, beloved, and we have in some measure that the mail still arrives sometimes to some places close to where we are, beloved brothers. Let us consider, what do we need? Forget everything that runs on energy, even solar. Why? Well, those who have solar systems, or those of us who have tiny solar systems, not like those that are very expensive. No, something homemade that we have done this. Well, we know that maybe the time will come when that system is going to not work because of some cable, some situation that happens. I don't know. And I need things to grind, to mix, all these things. So I have to think a little further to not depend on that solar system. Those who have power plants where there is no diesel, when there is no gasoline, beloved brothers. I have always told people, for many years we gave people survival classes, and we always put the most difficult scenario for them, because glory to God if we don't get to that most difficult scenario. But if we get, we are now ready. So let us run all the bases in the name of the Lord. Let us ask the Lord for wisdom of what we need and prepare ourselves with what we can, what now we cannot do, knowing that we cannot do, not out of neglect, but because we can really go before the Lord with clean hands and say, Lord, I couldn't do it because I couldn't, and you know it so. The Lord is going to do it for us. Also, another question. What am I going to this city for? To get what? Well, what I go to this city to get is what I have to work on in order to be self-sustaining of that. That is what we have to work on, beloved brothers. Make a list based on this and work on this preparation. Let us learn, as the Lord told me, to drink water from the river, from the spring, from the rain. The Lord gave me a very big warning, beloved brothers, that we not drink water from the city. And if He says this, it is because He knows, and He has already said it previously. He has let us know it, but He emphasizes it to us again, beloved brothers. What a loving God, that He runs all the bases so that His people are well. God grant that no one has to suffer for being disobedient, but that we all walk in obedience in Christ Jesus. It is my request, it is my longing, and it is my prayer at this time. Let us seek the Lord with all our hearts. Let us sow as He has specified. Let's learn about His medicinal plants. Let's put our hands to work to make a good bread for our children, for ourselves, in our homes, beloved brothers. There are many people who know how to make good, precious, tasty granolas with very little. Beloved brothers, the Lord has called my attention to the fact that in these next few days, we must quickly open another channel via Telegram. And I don't know if some could participate, but those who can pass it on to some people who won't be able to have Telegram. By WhatsApp, you can pass it on. Or if not, when they get on YouTube, you can get it there. Beloved brothers, in many places, there are many people who can do things. We can share recipes. You don't have to make a video. Simply share it by audio, in writing, and your people will benefit from this so that we are all ready. A channel where we show pure recipes that have helped us to survive, right, in the face of a weak economy or zero economy at home. So, beloved brothers, we're going to be working on this in the next few days with the help of the Lord. And I know that by the grace of the Lord, we are all going to be able to be blessed. All those who share their recipes, we know that nothing that has milk, eggs, cheese, nothing that comes from animals is going to be accepted. So let's work on this so that these recipes are as the Lord pleases, for a people that is preparing to have an awakened mind in order to be able, like that, to receive His law, His commandments, His statutes, His foundations of faith, and that, like this, we can walk back to this original plan that the Lord wants for each one of us. God grant that it be so, beloved brothers. Let us continue to pray for one another, and that we may, in the name of the Lord, be able to be blessed in Him. Blessings to all.